Dangerous.
Very dangerous. Any truck with that, and you're into what they call, you're onto the middle plateau. And that's a very dangerous situation.
Doctor, 3 days of darkness?
Yes, there's no doubt about it. There are going to be 3 days when there's a great darkness over our earth, and during which it will be dangerous to be abroad, to be outside your home, and even in your home it may be dangerous.
3 days without sun?
3 days without the lateral light we're used to, yes. Without that. But it's like everything else, when it takes place, they will endeavor to give it an astronomical and a geophysical explanation.
You know, so much of what you're saying this morning, my audience knows, you might not, because you're in Manhattan, where I presume that you've not been able to hear me.
Yes, I've heard everything you said tonight.
Well, tonight, yes. But, Doctor, in just the past week, I don't know why, I asked the audience,
yes,
if one day you arose and the sun did not come up, what would you conclude? I just asked them that general question, and...
what was the answer?
The answer was, many answers were flippant,
yes,
but many answers were, they would conclude that the end has begun. It was just, it's eerie to me that I even asked that question.
I know.
All right.
I know.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dr. Malachi Martin. Dr. Malachi Martin, ex-Jesuit, former exorcist, and one-time advisor to 3 popes, is currently a best-selling author. As a premier investigator of clandestine politics and unlikely alliances of popes and cardinals, his novels offer rare insights into the men who guide nearly 1 billion people in faith and broker the destinies of countries and continents. As a member of the Vatican Intelligence Network, I didn't know they had one, under Pope John XXIII, Martin helped extend the church into Iron Curtain countries in 1964, after 25 years as a Jesuit. He left Rome for New York, where he did odd jobs until a Guggenheim Fellowship enabled him to write his first bestseller, Hostage to the Devil.
But first of all, satisfy yourself that there's nothing physical, no physical basis. Then 1 or 2 expert psychiatrists, usually people who don't believe in God, by the way, because they're skeptical, must tackle you and find out, are you just plain loony, or is there something they don't understand? And
sure,
they come back with a report saying, well, the pattern is normal, we can't explain it. Then the church authorities generally say, okay, let's try exorcism. And in the first 20 minutes, basis, then 1 or 2 that look very like possession, but are not. So you must first of all satisfy yourself that there's nothing physical, no physical basis. Then 1 or 2 expert psychiatrists, Korea, or a simple tumor on the brain, which produces phenomena, produces events in a person's life that look very like possession, but are not. So you must first of all satisfy yourself that there's nothing physical, no physical basis. Then 1 or 2 expert psychiatrists, usually people who don't believe in God, by the way, because they're skeptical, must tackle you and find out, are you just plain loony, or is there something they don't understand? And
sure,
they come back with a report saying, well, the pattern is normal, we can't explain it. Then the church authorities generally say, okay, let's try exorcism.
Now, I've got a clean copy of it now, and I warn you, this could scare you. Here's the email. Dear Art Bell, I just recently began listening to your radio show and could not believe it when you talked about the sounds from hell tonight. My uncle had told me this story a couple of years ago, and I didn't believe him. Like one of your listeners who discounted the story as nothing more than just a religious newspaper fabricated account. The story about the digging of the hole and the hearing of the sounds from hell is very real. It did occur in Siberia. My uncle collected videos and audio tapes and so forth on the paranormal, supernatural. He passed away fairly recently, but he would have loved your show. He let me listen to one of the audio tapes that he had on the sounds from hell in Siberia, and I copied it. He received his copy from a friend who worked at the BBC. It took me a while to find it tonight, but attached is that sound from my uncle's tapes. It's not the greatest quality, but the sounds are there. I was very hesitant to send you this, as the sound bothers me to listen to. I'd suggest that if you do play it on the program, warn listeners in advance so they may have the option of turning the radio off for 30 seconds while it plays. It has always haunted me. To those who discounted the Siberia Sounds from Hell story, it is true, and I, for one, wish it wasn't. Rick, listening from Chicago. And so I submit now the cleaned, a better copy to you, and I warn you, what you're about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
You might say, Bill, but I'm a Christian. I'm not going to hell. Why do I need to hear about hell? 3 quick reasons. Number one, when you understand how severe hell is, you'll be much more appreciative of your own salvation from what you were saved from. See, a lot of Christians today believe in a teaching called universalism or annihilationism. Annihilationism is a teaching that says you simply cease to exist if you deny Jesus. But that's not true. Jesus said in Matthew 25:46, these shall go in everlasting life, and these shall go in everlasting punishment. He used the word everlasting as the word aionios. So just as heaven is everlasting, so is hell everlasting. It says the same thing in John 5:29, Mark 16:16, Daniel 12:2, Acts 24:15, Matthew 13:30. All these places point out that hell is eternal, and you'll thank God you were saved from this horrible place. Number two, it causes us as Christians to walk more in the fear of the Lord. Now, a lot of Christians live compromised lifestyles today. They live in sin, backslidden. You hear guys living with their girlfriend, sleeping with their girlfriend, cheating on their taxes, all kinds of things that people do as Christians because they have a lack of the fear of the Lord. And the fear of the Lord is simply, Deuteronomy 6 and Deuteronomy 17 said, the fear of the Lord is to read His Word and to obey His Word. See, and you have enough respect for Almighty God that you will obey Him. And when you have the fear of the Lord, you understand there's consequences for your actions. But also that we serve a loving God that gave so much for us that you don't want to offend Him. You want to show respect by obeying His Word. So when you understand how severe hell is, Proverbs 16:6 says, by the fear of the Lord, men depart from evil. And so when you understand how the severity of hell, you will not want to play around with sin. Jesus said in Mark 9:47, if your eye offends thee, the word offend means causes you to sin, He said, pluck it out. It's better for you to enter into life maimed than into hell fire. So He's telling you, if you're playing around with a sinful lifestyle, you're in danger of hellfire. So understanding hell will cause you to walk that straight walk and not compromise. And number 3, it will give us as Christians more of a passion for the lost. Revelation 13:6, James 2:7, and some others. Then they directed that hatred they had for God, they directed towards me.
These eyes were evil, wicked. You can feel the hate, how they look at you. You can sense that hate. That hate is so overwhelming that not even a human being in this earth has that kind of hate. People their flesh burns. They burn, and the flesh falls. And your bones get nice and toasty and black and gray.
And they were screaming so loud you want to get away from the screams, but you have to endure that for all eternity.
And as I went down, deeper and deeper into the earth, I started hearing a woman screaming, and all she could do was scream. She didn't stop screaming. The screams never stopped. She never stopped. It was just a constant screaming. They were just 1,000 times worse than what you could have ever heard on earth.
When I went forward, there was a lot of screams. There was a lot of fire. I seen a lot of people. There was a lot of people screaming. Before I go forward, I'm not saying this to scare you guys. I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm just telling you, this is the true what happens after death. I seen all this. I seen rivers of fire. People are burning. There's been people burning there for many, many, many years, hundreds of years.
And they were screaming so loud you want to get away from the screams, but you have to endure that for all eternity. See, Job 7:9 says, he that goes down to Sheol shall come up no more. You have the understanding you're not going to get out. And you don't realize how tormenting of a thought that is, to have no finality with your family. You can never say goodbye to them, never tell them you love them, never hug them, nothing. And they don't know that you still exist. See, death does not mean cease to exist. Death means separation from God if you don't know Jesus. You still exist, you're just down deep in the earth. And to not be able to say goodbye and to live with that thought forever was extremely tormenting. I wanted to talk to a person, just anybody, right? There's pleasure in conversation and being with people. But in hell, you're denied that. See, even though I saw those people in the pit, they're all kept at a distance from each other. So you have no conversation. You're just isolated and alone, all by yourself for all eternity. Ecclesiastes 9:10 says, there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in Sheol. And it doesn't matter if you're somebody famous here, no one would know who you are there. You have no identity again. Ecclesiastes 6:4 says your name is covered in darkness. You're completely forgotten. Psalms 88:12, Isaiah 26:14, Deuteronomy 32:26. Many verses talk about being forgotten. And you don't realize even that's tormenting, because nobody up on the earth has given you a thought. The stench is the most foul, putrid, disgusting odors, worse than any open sewer you have ever smelled.
A smell that I wanted to die. This smell was just horrible, horrible. If this smell was on the earth, we would die, because that's how terrible this smell is.
Because the toxicity of the sulfur coming up, it will kill you. It's called sulfur dioxide. It's toxic to breathe. Well, sulfur is just another word for brimstone. So you're breathing in this foul, putrid, disgusting air that you don't want to breathe. But it's even worse than that. There's not enough air in hell to breathe.
There's no air in there. There's no sleep. There's no rest. There's no food. And they're eating you. They're eating your flesh. It makes no difference. Just picture yourself now in the earth. If you have bugs or maggots eating your flesh, how would that feel? But you're in hell already. There's nothing you can do. You have to. That's the torture. That's your everlasting torture life in there.
I'm not trying to sensationalize this. I'm just trying to give you a picture. Well, if I was to give you one drop of water, that wouldn't suffice, would it? You wouldn't value one drop. But in hell you would.
There's no water. You know how it feels sometimes we don't go without water for a while? Man, we need water. Even though we don't like water, but man, we need water. I want some water. Food, rest. You ever been, when night falls, you're tired, you need to sleep? There's no sleep there. These demons go in there day and night and they torture you in every which way. There's never no rest for you.